And we are live. Hi, Ed.
Hello.
One more week has passed.
So quick.
All right. So I did write chapter 7 starting, action scene as we discussed last week. So that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you. I know that you've read it. So what did you think about it? What are your thoughts on the action scene?
Yeah. Okay. So not only action scene, I have taken lots of notes here. So I'm just gonna open it and go one by one. First of all, the action scene didn't look like an action scene to me in the sense that, like, I know that you were putting an action scene, but it was more like a passive action scene. So it took me by the end of the first paragraph to realize that it is an action scene. So what I did was just note down some suggestions. You can totally ignore them, but just my way of looking at things. So what I was thinking is, like, in the first paragraph, what you've done is just I'll read one line. Just before submitting your first talk proposal for your very first conference, you probably are worried that about what kind of talk would be chosen by the conference organizer. That's exactly what is in Jennifer's mind. Will they select my talk? That's an objection and a fear or something like that. And what I was thinking is that we can convert it into a fear-based action. So it was like, so um, so let's say we start with an action, assuming action Jennifer has already taken. So what happens once she submit the proposal? And then this is a scenario every one of us has experienced somewhere. For example, in job applications or in conference application, that you send your application, nothing happens. And that's what we are scared of when we make a new application or send a pitch to a speaker. So start with a scene where she's actually sent it. Now she's waiting for a feedback and nothing happened. And she's waiting and waiting and waiting, refreshing her inbox, nothing happened. But then what we do is go back few, like just a step back, and then we talk about, let's this scenario makes you scared of sending it in the first place. So before sending, you have a lot of fear. So will it be that scene where I'll be refreshing and nothing happens? Is it, do I have to go in and read 100 times and improve it before sending it? And a lot of those kind of fears. So I would say that if we take that fear angle, it will be very, very exciting. Like, oh gosh, I remember something like this happened to me, how to avoid that. And then
Yeah.
then we put your existing paragraph as the second paragraph. So that's just a suggestion. It's more like fear
I think
based.
that's a good idea. Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, great. So that's what I was thinking. So my notes here are: start with an action that Jennifer has taken. Let's say you've submitted the proposal. What happens next? Nothing. This leaves you wondering, blah, blah, worries that becomes real. So worries actually became real. And then we transition to this. So we all have been there, excited and prepared, and submitted something that other person has to choose, and nothing happens. Because of this experience, actually Jennifer is wondering, even before submitting the proposal, of all these fears. And yeah, so that's in the
Okay.
first
I,
thing.
I like that start from that anxiety and the waiting, because that's what people's what is in our avatar's mind, right? It's that anxiety and waiting. And especially because when you're writing a proposal for a talk, there's a bunch of things that help, right? So a very simple thing would be start with the problem you're supposed to solve, right? That's what the elevator pitch is all about, is to help you frame that talk submission from a perspective of what the reader has to gain from attending this talk, right? When somebody's looking at the the talk description. Another aspect that is super important is that conference organizers will take your talk description and put it in their webpage. So basically what you're doing is that you're also helping them sell you as a speaker, right? So it's very important that when Jennifer goes through the process that we describe in chapter 7, that she thinks that she's not only selling the talk to the content committee of the conference, which she's doing, she's also selling the talk to the actual conference goers, right? To the people who are going to the conference. So even if you get over the submission, right, and you get selected to be part of the program, your talk still needs to be more interesting than the talks going on at the same time, and you don't know which those are, at the conference. So basically for Jennifer, your talk needs to be the most interesting talk of the whole conference, because you don't know what you're up against.
Yeah.
You might be up against the best talks of the conference
Yeah.
in the same time slot. You don't know, right? So that's also one of the things that I think I might have to add there, is that Jennifer is up against the best talks of the conference. You need to be able to sell it to the audience of the conference. And so maybe that, that addition, right? Like exactly what you said. And one more thing, it's not just to the conference content committee that you need to sell the talk. You also need to sell it to a random person that is attending the conference, doesn't know you, knows what they are struggling with, and are looking for talks that help. So how do you pitch that to the conference goers?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Cool. So I've got two more points from this chapter, and they have to do something with the frameworks that we are covering. So there are two frameworks that you are covering in this chapter, and specifically using them for the purpose of getting your pitch straight to the conference organizers. And the first one is empathy map, and the second one is elevator pitch. So I think we've talked about empathy map before as well, but what I would love to see here is let me go a step further. Elevator pitch one, I love the framework. That's something I haven't seen in a framework form before. I searched on internet even after reading your framework, and I couldn't find any such framework. So it's a really, really good framework. So I was wondering whether it's invented by you or put together by you, or it's an existing framework like Empathy Map.
Yeah, it's actually copied out of I think it's Jeffrey Moore's elevator pitch.
Okay.
Let me just quickly Google it, but I think that's it.
Yeah, so I think that would be a reference to that would help, because then people can, and this is what I was trying to do, or like, oh wow, this is exciting, and I would love to learn more about it or see more examples and stuff like that. And I went on internet and I couldn't find anything.
It's Jeffrey Moore's elevator pitch that he talks about in Crossing the Chasm. But
Cool.
That's a good point. I'll put that up.
Okay, great. So the other thing good about this elevator pitch description that you've written in the chapter is that you've covered a lot of why we are using elevator pitch before we use elevator pitch. And I love it. It's really good that it just nailed it down, that like why I need elevator pitch, and don't go for any other approach, take this approach. But we didn't do, you didn't take this approach for empathy map. Now, I know that we have covered empathy map in a lot of different chapters before as well, in talks and building up the idea and stuff. But assuming that like I'm reading this chapter after 1 week of the last talk we had, and I already forgotten what we talked about. So in my mind, I'm coming afresh. And I'm assuming that Jennifer will be coming like that again and again to these chapters as well. And if we can cover the same framework, like, or same why idea before introducing empathy map, like, or before jumping into the detail of how every element of empathy map work, I think that would be tremendously helpful, because it set the mindset straight. Because right now the empathy map is like raw. You start reading about empathy, like the idea that you should use empathy map, and then you jump straight inside the empathy map, which is more like a roller coaster ride. So we can smoothen this ride a little bit by adding
think
those
that's a
blocks.
good point.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I put it in my notes here.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all.
All right. Was there something in the elevator pitch that you particularly found interesting or insightful?
Okay, so for example, the elevator pitch, the way you structured is was like for this, who, this, and that. I like that, but I would love to have a little bit a description of the framework before we fill the framework. So for, and then like kind of a template form for fill up the um, for your customer avatar, for example, in brackets. Then who or for, yeah, customer avatar, and then who. That's an
Struggles with,
action
yeah.
they're trying to do or a job they're trying to do. And then the is the product, you know what it is, and stuff like that. So that will help because that's what I was trying to figure out in my Google search. So that will help as well.
Okay, that's a good point. All right, and then there's another tool there, which is the story map, and that's the last one in the chapter. Did you read through that? Do you have any feedback?
I did read. I thought I read through that. I think it was a very little mentioned, just like one
It's
paragraph. Oh
not
yeah, yeah.
finalized.
Okay. I know what you're talking. Yes. So story map. I don't have any surprises here because we've worked on it so much, and I have it like almost every day open in front of me. So it just skipped my attention because I just see it every day, almost. So it's just a description of what we did. In
Is true.
structuring the
So
topic.
the perhaps I think that from the feedback you already gave, I think it makes sense for the story map to check that there's enough why, right? Why to use the story map, that there's enough
Same
of that.
consistency.
Yeah. And also, I do use an example, but maybe having a conceptual example at the start might make sense, like you just mentioned for the elevator pitch, a template.
Yeah. You know, I think this is also a good idea to have some kind of workshop sometime, maybe like do a story map example or something like that. I think that would be very valuable. And the reason I'm thinking that is because right now in my other works, I'm doing this. And since I'm not every day in the agile world, I don't get to do this every day. So I like to get a refresher every time I'm doing this, if I'm not doing it every day. So that this one is helping me doing exactly that, but it will also be helpful for probably audience in structuring their empathy map with their book idea or with their SMI.
Actually, that's one thing we could do, actually, Ed. We could, as we prepare the launch of the book, we could actually invite an author and you and I, we could do the 48-hour workshop live with them, right? In a couple of videos, and actually sell that as the bonus material. So get an author, help the author, and at the same time give an example to our audience of what it looks like to go through the 48-hour process. And I think I might just have the author for that in mind.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think this is super valuable. An example case in point is a company I'm working in right now. They have a lot of products going on, but because they grew so rapidly, they didn't get time to implement all these learning organizational techniques and tools in managing those things. So what I'm doing is I'm introducing this idea that my project will become a case study for other projects going on in the company, and I'm introducing this product in there. And a video like that will definitely help people like me, or in a position like me who are in product management line, in implementing that as an SOP or a case study for further products, especially when doing it for the first time or after a very long time.
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea. I'll put it down for a future topic. Okay, so that was chapter 7. Thank you for the feedback. I do have another topic I wanted to talk to you on, and this topic comes from a conversation I had with an author. I'm coaching several businesses, and of course, many of those business owners are also authors. They have written or are writing books. And one of the people I'm coaching actually got a deal with a major publisher. And as we were going through the coaching, and she's talking about, you know, what she has learned from working with this major publisher, a bunch of major publisher popular myths have emerged in how she has related to that publisher. And I wanted to talk about that in the context of what is perhaps the most important aspect for Jennifer and other authors out there that want to get invited to speak at conferences, which is to develop an audience. And let's start with this first major publisher myth, right? Major publishers will not get you an audience. And this is the first myth that authors that are, you know, writing their first book, or they're getting started with the whole writing process, they think they, you know, it would be so great to have a major publisher publish my book. And yes, in some aspects it would be great, but here's the problem. Major publishers are like record labels. They are in the rock star business, right? They will contract, say, 150 writers or authors during a year. They'll publish all of those 150 books 2 or 3 years later. And then whatever sells, they'll put more money into it. But what doesn't sell will just disappear. It will completely vanish from their portfolio, from their catalog, and they will not try to sell any of it, right?
Yeah.
So the key thing for us to talk about, I think, is the importance of developing an audience. Because if you develop an audience, you can get a contract with a major publisher. And this is what happened to this business owner who's also an author that I'm coaching, is that she worked on a book, made the book popular, got a huge list, and of course got the interest of the major publisher. That's the point, right? It's not the other way around. It's not you get a major publisher to publish you and then you get an audience. It's the opposite. We need to work on the audience. We need to develop the audience, and then we'll get published by a major publisher.
Yeah.
So that's one of the myths, at least, we need to tackle, because for Jennifer's sake, she needs to start working right now to build an audience. And that's what the whole 48-hour book method is about developing an audience even before the book is written.
Yeah. I also have another example. There's a guy called Benjamin Hardy. I really love his stuff. Recently discovered him like 6 months ago. He just released last week a book called Personality Isn't Permanent. And that his content has a lot of impact on me in the personal development area, one of the niches that I'm present in now. And he has built up, this is his second book. He has built up an audience, and I think he built up an email list of 300,000 people, contacts, and he got the publishing deal at the back of that email list from one of the major publishers for 200. I'm not accurate with the numbers here, but somewhere around $250,000 signing amount, because he had a list which was engaged list. That was his audience, and his major source of getting attention from that audience was email. He write blogs on Medium, but he always send that in the email to people who are on his list, and since people love his material, they go and see, and it gives him benefit everywhere else. And that strategy is the same strategy I'm using as well. So I'm building an email list with this pure idea. Two goals: one, get direct feedback from people who are reading my material in emails. Two is build an email list, and then use that idea that I have this much reach, I can control, as a way to get publishing deal. Now, it doesn't mean that I will not self-publish anything meanwhile. Of course, this journey is full of lots of small self-published ideas, and I will develop them as I'm researching using SMIQs and other methods with people. So just an example.
Yeah, so that's another example of what we are trying to help Jennifer do with this book, is to concentrate on developing her own audience that will have an impact on her own business, whether she wants to be employed by a better company, get a better contract, or just have better consulting gigs, right? Mm-hmm. The other myth that I wanted to talk about is that the major publisher will give you more sales. Now, when we talk to people that are, authors that want to sell books, they want to have the book out there and reach more people. People will immediately think, okay, if I go with a major publisher, they'll give you more sales. Okay, so here's the thing. The average book out there in the world sells 250 copies for the whole lifetime. To sell 250 copies of a book, you only need something like 2,000 emails. You can develop that in less than a year with the right approach. Yeah. So in less than a year, you can create a book and an audience that will sell more copies than major publishers can sell of the average book.
Yeah.
So this, of course, tells us that the good news is you can sell a lot of copies on your own. The bad news is if you go with a major publisher, you're tied because they own you from that moment on. Most often contracts even have second and third book options for the publisher, meaning that if they say, I want this book, you have to write it. Otherwise, you don't get the revenues, and they own the book, and they can get another person to write in your name a similar book to what they want, because they basically own you the moment you sign the contract.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've learned only after interviewing one of the people who was traditionally published is he told me that do not go to publishers with your full book written. Go with a manuscript, and then they will have their own ideas of what their audience want, and then they will tell you what, if they accept you, if they like your pitch, they accept you, they will then tell you where the direction of book should go. And then you have to write it accordingly, because once you've written the whole book, they don't want to mess, because it's a lot of work to change already written book, give it a different direction, then begin. Now, this method, again, shameless pitch, the method that we are working on and that we have worked on teach people is it keeps you in that place always, that by the time if you decide to go that route, you're ready, you have a method that develop that pitch, and then you can prove to them that, look, this is the demand from the audience, and it will sell, this idea will work, and all those things.
Yeah, absolutely. The story map is a great example of something that gives you a clear direction, but is completely flexible to what you discover by talking to your audience, right? That's actually one of the things that we talk about quite often in the book is how important it is to have the story map that gives you an outline that basically helps the book write itself. And then I believe it is chapter 8. Let me just check in chapter 8, we talk about testing the content, getting feedback, and then from then on adapting the story map to what you actually learn from the customers, the audience that you're talking about. Okay, so those are two myths we've talked about. Then I wanted to talk about a third and fourth myth. So the third one is that the traditional publisher will give you more exposure. And the fourth is that they will promote your book. Okay, so here's the thing. Here's how the publishing business works. They'll put very little effort into promoting your book. In fact, it's very easy for an independent author to put more effort into promoting their book than a major publisher will ever put into the book until the book starts selling. And that's why it's so important to go and self-publish first, because the moment the book starts selling, then they are interested. Then they want to go and promote it. Why? Because major publishers are just like record labels. They are in the rock star business. They will only promote what already sells, right? Yeah. So if you promote it, if you get exposure, if you sell it, then they're interested, and then they'll promote it. But most often, the promotion that major publishers offer independent authors when they sign, for the first book is very little. Basically, sending one email to one list, and that's it. Yeah. You could do that in half an hour.
Yeah.
If you build your own list, you could send 20 emails to that list.
Yeah. And most of them anyway send 1990s style newsletters. Still,
which
like
nobody reads because they are written from the perspective of a publisher, and the readers are not publishers.
Yeah. And it's just because most of them are corporates, the way they think is still corporate-y. Like even when they try to be personal, for example, go and listen to their homebrewed podcasts. They still, the
The best
topics, the way they're
podcasts in the
interviewing.
publishing world are done by independent authors.
Yeah, exactly. So they're the most interesting ones. So every time I subscribe to podcast by, I'm not taking a name here, but like big name publishers, I found it so like annoyingly off, like all over the place, that I just don't want to waste my time listening to them. I would rather go and listen to the author themselves, like use Amazon to search my favorite authors and just subscribe to them, you know.
Exactly. And that's another thing, right? The other thing is, oh, I will get so many more clients, consulting clients, if I traditionally publish. Well, I got news for you. No, you won't. And here's the kicker. The moment you go with a major publisher, you no longer own the book. So do you want to give a copy of the book to a potential client? Well, too bad. If you
Goodbye.
publish the book yourself, you can give the ebook for free and you can get a copy printed on Amazon Print on Demand for less than $3, depending on the size, if it's color or black and white, etc. About $3. You can get the book and you can get the book shipped to your client or shipped to you, and then you hand it over signed to your client.
There's
You can do
no
that.
better business card in this world than your book.
And then if you go with a major publisher, you need to pay them anywhere between $10 and $20. And then you need to wait for many weeks before you get the book.
Yeah. And this is the thing. A lot of people, they want to build their thought leadership, but they want to build their brand because they want to sell something. I mean, if you don't sell, you will die out of hunger. Like, so you have to sell something. And this is the core reason for building thought leadership. Or influencers in different niches which are not intelligence or intellectual based, which are not thought leadership based, still the base remains the same. The reason why you want to be popular is not to feed your ego, but actually is to create a sustainable business model. And client is, for consultants and coaches, people in our world, clients is the centerpiece, that your business revolves around the clients you serve, and everything else you do should get attention of those clients or make you shine or look really good, intelligent, trustable in front of those clients. Going to publishers, if they don't promote you, then you did all the efforts, all the work, but it didn't give you the fruit that you wanted, which is be seen as a thought leader in front, like in the eyes of your clients, if they never see your book.
And especially if you're in a consulting business, you want to own the printing of the book because you want to give it away for free. You go to a conference, you want to do signed copy events at the conference.
Yeah.
So forget about major publisher if you want to use the book to promote your business or to grow your business.
Yeah.
Now, there are some benefits though, and I did want to cover that because people will think we're just hating on traditional publishers. No, there's a good reason why they exist, and there's good reasons to want to be traditionally published. They are not to get more sales. That's not what you're going to get from a major publisher deal. They're not to get more exposure. Again, that's not what you get from a major publisher deal. They're not to get more promotion for your book. Again, you will not get that from a traditionally published book. And it's not to get a lot more clients because it's a hell of a lot more expensive to do the promotion you would usually do with a book to get more clients. But here are the things that I think are really good, and I would like to hear your thoughts as well, Ed. So major publisher benefits, they give you credentials, right? You can put their logo on your webpage, published by, right? That gives you credibility. The bragging rights you get from having their logo and from having been published by a major publisher, that is valuable, right? So I did want to focus on, if you already have an audience, if you already have a mailing list, then going and getting published by a traditional publisher will just increase your reputation. So don't forget that there's still some value out of traditional publishing, but it is about building reputation and potentially about building reach. So to this author that I'm coaching, I said, don't ask them to promote your book. Let's do so that you organize a virtual book tour. You're at home, you do a Zoom call with readers, and you talk about the book, you answer their questions. You do that, and you ask people to sign up to get into that Zoom call. They need to sign up anyway, right? So you're growing your list. So help them to promote your virtual book tour, because then it's a win-win, right? The publisher will probably send one, maybe two emails to their list about your book. That's it.
Yeah.
Ask them one thing and one thing only: promote my virtual book tour. And then people go from being an audience of that publisher to being an audience of your book. And that's what we need. Our goal should always be to grow our audience.
Yes, I think this is genius. This is what differentiate from somebody who doesn't know, who just follow what everyone else tells, to somebody who's like very thoughtful on how the publishing company adds to their portfolio. So in this case, think of the publishing company as Facebook organic or physical organic. It's a traffic source. And if you think of it that way, then this approach makes perfect sense. So your book is just like a Facebook post. It's nothing more than a post for them, but they have the platform. So what you are going to do with your book is make some noise on their platform, get attention of certain people who will come and join your email list as part of your virtual book tour. This is, in my opinion, is genius. The second thing that I would be keeping in my mind when I'll be getting the book deal would be, I should be able to buy a copy, like any amount of copies of my book, as cheap as possible. The reason I want to do that is because I'm like a kind of an advanced marketer, and I would like to create campaigns on free plus shipping and a different kind of innovation. And I would like to use a drop ship model, or maybe a wholesale model, that if I'm selling on my own, if I'm promoting better than they are doing, I would like to buy in bulk. And I don't want my own books to be so costly that I cannot run these campaigns, because the cost of my customer acquisition through these campaigns is going very high.
And that's actually a great point. So when you do a traditional publishing deal, remember to safeguard a very low cost per copy, physical copy, and ebook copy for you, because they will charge you for every copy.
Yeah.
Traditional publishers also make money from the author's own purchases.
Yeah.
And they will want to inflate that price. Yeah. But they have the, they print large numbers, they have their own printers, etc. For them, it's very cheap. Yeah. So make sure you also get your own book at a very cheap price. And it's very easy. You could just submit the manuscript to Kindle Print on Demand at Amazon and check what they would charge you and ask for a price that is around that level, right? This particular author I was talking about is getting books at $12 or $13 per copy, which is incredibly much for a black and white printed just text book, right? You should be able to buy that at less than $6.
Yeah. And I would like, if when the traditional publishers sign you up, in the terms and condition, they will be offering you a price. I would rather take a smaller price upfront than the cost of the books, because the methods that we are teaching here, you could literally use this to earn more money than any amount these publishers can offer you. And in fact, getting 2 clients, 3 clients, so in consulting world, 2-3 clients alone could pay you more money than the whole
and the
deal,
publishing deal.
Publishing, yeah. So focus on that side, and this is what we are here for.
Absolutely, to help you out. All right, I think that was. I was just thinking, Ed, we might want to do a major blog post on traditional publishing myths and put it out there as a way to promote our book, of course, and to grow our list, because I think this is extremely valuable. What we just shared is extremely valuable for Jennifer and anyone wanting to write a book.
Yeah, I love it. I think this is a really good topic. I mean, even though it sounds like, I know everything, like people will think I know everything about traditional publishing and why would I read this? But it took me, even after hanging around in the book world for a long time. It took me a very long time. Like by now, I'm still discovering these things that like, yeah, okay, the best authors invisibly working on these techniques on their own, or through their consultants. For example, Benjamin Hardy I was talking about, I have 3 mailboxes where I'm receiving emails from him. One of them, he sent an email that like, this Friday is the last time where you should purchase my book so that I can be on the best-selling list. And I don't use that mailbox much, so I was waiting for the other mailbox for that email to come as well, because I use this as a way to reply to them and then connect with them, somehow make friends this way. Like, I even get replies from Tim Ferriss' friend, who I forgot the name right now, but like, yeah, so that works. And I didn't get that email there, so I realized that actually he's sending that email to a very small focused cohort, just to push his numbers a little bit. And that was like an aha moment, that he's not blasting an email to 100,000 or 300,000 people. He's sending like, okay, I'm 100 books short of my bestseller getting listed as bestseller. Okay, so for 100 books, maybe I'll send email to 1,000 people or 10,000 people, and that's a small cohort. So you don't have to. I mean, you have a lot of control if you have the audience with you. That's
Absolutely.
the key.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Develop an audience. That's the key. All right, Ed, this has been a great episode.
All right.
See you next week.
See you.